Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber, joined here on set by criminal defense attorney Sanford Rubenstein. We're going to break down all the biggest live trials and legal stories in the news today. We're going to be live in two different courtrooms, but we have to talk about some other big stories that are happening. So let's get started. Okay, so he was found guilty of kidnapping and conspiracy to kidnap. We're going to get to his sentence in a minute, but Sanford, how rare is it for one to have a hung jury? The prosecution retries it, tries to do the same kind of evidence, maybe a little bit more, and then they get a win here. They get a successful guilty verdict. How often does that happen?
Well, first of all, the prosecution had to make a decision that they're going to retry the case, and they felt the evidence was strong enough that they felt they could get a conviction. So they did retry the case and did get that conviction. But what's really interesting to me here is that they never went for murder. Only kidnapping, because obviously they didn't have a body and they felt they couldn't prove murder, but they'll do the next best thing. They'll try to prove, and did prove, kidnapping, and a 30-year sentence is very serious.
Well, you know, murder was on the table at one point, and yes, they dropped it. I guess I'm curious, are you surprised that you can get a kidnapping verdict, or would you even get a murder verdict if you... a guilty murder verdict, even if you don't have a body? No one knows where she is. There's no evidence of exactly what happened to her body. So how does that happen?
Well, first of all, it would be very difficult to prove the murder case without an autopsy of the body to say the cause of death. So I think they did a smart thing in just going for the kidnapping case, and obviously that proved to be the correct decision because they got the conviction they were looking for.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned it, let's play it right now. This was actually the sentence that was handed down yesterday, and then we'll break it down. All right, he was sentenced to 30 years for both of the charges to serve concurrently. Chances that he actually serves the entirety of those 30 years. You heard the judge talk about the Department of Corrections, maybe crediting him with time served. He has also indicated, the defendant, that he plans to appeal this. So the chances that he serves actually 30 years.
Well, normally there is a discount, so to speak, for good behavior with regard to sentences. So the likelihood he won't serve exactly 30 years, but will certainly serve close to it if this conviction is upheld.
Yeah, and it was the same thing that his wife got convicted of, so it's interesting. They're not going to be serving it together, not in the same place, but it's interesting to think about. We actually heard from Sidney Moore, the defendant himself. He had an opportunity to speak out before his sentencing. Let's hear what he said. He says he wants to give them closure. He feels bad that he can't give them anything. He apologizes. What does that tell you?
Well, what it tells me is maybe this is not over yet. Hypothetically, a body is now found. Can they now prosecute him for murder? And would that be a sentence, if he's found guilty of it, that would be consecutive as opposed to concurrent? You know, this may not be the end of this story.
The other way of looking at it is if a body is found, his defense attorneys can jump on it and say, wait a second, there's evidence to prove someone else did this.
We don't know.
Right.
And right now, there is no body, so obviously we're not going in that direction. But if a body is found, that could open up this case again, because I don't believe in that jurisdiction there is a statute of limitations for murder.
You know, it's interesting because this is such a strong circumstantial evidence case. When you look at the evidence of him using the payphone to try to get a hold of Heather Elvis and their communications on the night, the idea that he was trying to lure her to the Peachtree boat landing, the evidence of what seemed to be his truck driving in that direction. Evidence of them, Tammy and Sidney, cleaning up the pickup truck. Why would you be spending hours cleaning up that pickup truck in that exact time?
If anything, this demonstrates the importance of circumstantial evidence.
That's what I was going to get to.
In fact, the other two cases that we're going to be discussing today have circumstantial evidence as the gut of their cases.
And I'm glad. You did a perfect tease to the next trials that we're doing. So Sanford, great job. So this is the conclusion to the Sidney Moore case as much as we see it right now. If we hear something, we'll let you know. In the meantime, we're going to focus on our two live trials of the day. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.